How's it hanging, everybody? Today we're talking Fantasian. This is a game that I've talked about a number of times here on the channel, and today we have some very good news because Fantasian has been announced for modern platforms with the subtitle Neo Dimensions and published by Square Enix, which is pretty interesting. We'll get into that a little bit. So I wanted to talk about this. It was announced at today's Nintendo Direct. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the Direct in general, some of the other announcements, but let's start at the top with Fantasian because there's some very exciting things happening here. First off, they fixed it. They're fixing Fantasian because on Twitter, there is a Fantasian Twitter account that just popped up. They just tweeted and they confirmed that there is a new accessible difficulty feature in the game. And that, friends, is what I would recommend that you play on, because if you don't know, Fantasian, the Apple Arcade version, is brutally difficult. But not only that, there's no problem with a game just being hard, a difficult game. I mean, you know, we're in the Souls age, the Souls-like era, and lots of games are hard, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But Fantasian on Apple Arcade lies to the player by making the game very easy, very much like just coasty, breezy affair at the beginning of the game. In the middle of the game, it kind of rounds out into a more average difficulty game, you know, very manageable by a kind of the average JRPG player, I would say. Most anybody can probably get through that game. You might have to work a little bit, you might have to think a little bit, getting through the middle of the game. But then the end of the game, the latter half of the game, is when something went wrong in the development cycle of this game, because the difficulty went through the roof, like not even a difficulty spike, just like a difficulty 180. The game went from being a very approachable game to being the hardest JRPG or the hardest RPG period that I have ever played. And I'm not exaggerating. It was tough to get through this game. People have dropped the game at the final boss. I had a moment where I was close. I'm glad that I persevered and made it through, but my gosh, this game was very difficult. So I couldn't really easily recommend the game to people for that reason. But now that we have this new accessibility mode, which I think will probably be, you know, hopefully used as the real way to play the game, because you don't need the Apple Arcade service model version of the difficulty where they try to keep players subscribing to that service by bloating out the difficulty in the latter half of the game. Nah, we don't need that. We just need, it needs to be an average difficulty game. There's no reason it needs to be any harder than that. And that, friends, will make the game, in my opinion, one to look out for this year. Get your end of year lists ready. I'm not saying this is going to beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm not saying it's going to beat Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm not saying it's even going to be like Persona 3 Reload, but I think it'll be in the conversation. I think this game, you know, if you're okay with counting ports and, you know, ports of games in your end of year list, I think this one is going to be one to look out for, because it actually is that good when you fix the difficulty, which they've done. Another thing I'm going to say about this game, for people wondering about it, the soundtrack of this game is the best JRPG soundtrack I have ever heard. It is exceptional, and it is from the OG Final Fantasy composer, Nobu Uematsu. I always butcher his name. I can never even remember his name, so I have it up on my screen right here, pathetically so, but it's Uematsu-san, let's just call him that. He created soundtracks for many Final Fantasy games, and I feel like this is his magnum opus. This is his best work. I think that the Fantasian soundtrack is better than the Xenoblade soundtracks. I think it's better than Octopath Traveler soundtracks. I think it's better than the Pixel remasters, which are reworks of Uematsu's original material that was reworked into beautiful orchestral versions. I have a huge soft spot for those Pixel remaster soundtracks, but to me, this is the tippy top. This is as good as it gets. It is very technological. It is very sci-fi. in its approach, and it definitely does a lot of genre bending. It's traditional when it needs to be, it's kind of folksy when it needs to be, and it's very new age when it needs to be. And sometimes it's, takes a little bit of all of those to make what it is. This is the only physical item that you can pick up right now in terms of Fantasian. I have the soundtrack on CD, some CDs, some books in there. Highly recommended. And get this version too, because they might do a version later, but this is like the OG edition. You know what I'm saying? You want to pick that one up, I think. But I will be picking this game up. I don't know if I'm going to be playing it all the way through. I'll definitely give it a go, see what I'm feeling, see how far I want to go with it. But I have to pick it up because I have to support Sakaguchi-san and Uematsu-san and the Mistwalker team for bringing this game to modern platforms like it should have been all along. We now have voice acting in Fantasian, which I think is the right move to make, obviously, but it caught me off guard a little bit because I'm so used to this game just being mute that I was not expecting the voice actors to pop up. And I don't know if I have an opinion on any of the voice acting just from this trailer alone, but it is there. So we're going to learn more about that. What else is there to say? I think the main thing is just, it's coming to all modern platforms. Hopefully it will be coming out in a physical edition. I really hope so. I will be picking it up. But even if it's not coming out physical edition, I'll still be picking it up. I'll be picking it up on the Xbox because, yes, I'm a weirdo who collects JRPGs for my Xbox. Forgive me. Forgive me, PlayStation fans. Forgive me, Nintendo Switch diehard fans. Forgive me, Steam fans. I'm just weird like that. I don't know. It just is what it is. So that's Fantasian. Very exciting. And I guess we'll learn more soon. But we don't have a lot of info now. We know it's coming out in winter of this year. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to pivot into the rest of today's Nintendo Direct. Because if I made a dedicated video on the Nintendo Direct, it would get like 0 views. That's normally what happens to me when I cover Nintendo stuff. But listen up, YouTube algorithm. I found a way to sneak in my Nintendo Direct reaction into this video. So who's got the last laugh now? I guess you do if this video also gets no views, but we'll see about that. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, it helps. By the way, I haven't made a video in a very long time, so thanks for checking in on me. I really appreciate it. I'm hopefully going to have a much more active second half of 2024 when it comes to videos, because I've just been really hunkering down and playing a ton of games. So I have a lot to talk about, and I'll try to be making some games here shortly, so stay tuned. But anyway, what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the rest of this Nintendo Direct, and we're going to talk about Dragon Quest, another thing that we like to talk about here on the channel. Another thing that doesn't get very many views whenever I talk about it, but, let's see here. Let's give it one of these, and do one of these, and do one of these, and now we've got Dragon Quest. So Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D is coming to also all modern platforms, and it is coming out this year, it sounds like. And we're getting all 3 games. We're getting Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD in a little pack later actually next year. And then this year we're getting Dragon Quest HD-2D, Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D. And so what do I have to say about this game? Well, first of all, this has to be my moment. I try to make a video once a year just talking about the state of Dragon Quest. So I think this will suffice as a moment to talk about the state of Dragon Quest. There's one game that is the most exciting game that is a new release in the Dragon Quest catalog. And it's not this. It's not this. It's Dragon Quest X Offline, which just got translated just a couple weeks ago, got translated into Japanese and Chinese and got released in those 2 regions. And so we now have the forever online game, the forever MMO, Dragon Quest X, Japan only. We now have versions of that game, offline versions, but versions nonetheless of that game in other countries outside of Japan. It's going global. It's going to come here to the West eventually. It's going to get an English version. We don't know when. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I don't know what's taking so long. I don't know why that's not the game that everybody's talking about. For me, the Dragon Quest III thing is fun, but if I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, yes, we're watching the Dragon Quest. We're watching the Xbox trailer. I apologize. Sorry, got to do my Xbox thing. But Dragon Quest is forever Akira Toriyama, the guy that made Dragon Ball and a bunch of other properties, and he was the character designer for Dragon Quest. And in more recent years, his studio has been involved in making the Dragon Quest character designs. This title, the visuals in this title, seem removed from the Toriyama magic. We see the monster designs. The monster designs is like really the only Toriyama-ism in the game, but they're pixelated. They could be using older sprites or something, or older designs that they've sort of made into a 2D design and animated. I don't really know, but the problem here, folks, is that this is not the best artistic approach for Dragon Quest. I mean, it still looks great. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mean, look at what you're seeing here. It looks absolutely fantastic. We know it does. I know it does. You know it does. But at the same time, it does not look like Dragon Quest. Even just in the past few years with all the spin-off games, we look at Infinity Strash, we look at Dragon Quest Monsters, The Dark Prince, we look at Builders 1 and 2, even Dragon Quest Treasures. These games all look like a Toriyama. They all have that DNA in the character designs, in the monster designs. But it seems like they're taking a step away from a Toriyama with this. And I don't like that very much. That worries me, that this is going to start a trend where we're going to see more and more remakes of Dragon Quest games, or perhaps even new Dragon Quest games, that divorce themselves from the Toriyama art style. These character sprites look like very generic anime. They look like, even more generic than something like Octopath Traveler to me. And no disrespect to Octopath, I love Octopath, but Octopath is not known for having the most innovative looking character sprites, or the most unique character sprites. So I'm a little bit worried about this direction. But don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna buy this. I'm still gonna play it day one. You don't have that to worry about. But at the same time, I just, of all the Dragon Quest games we need, which is all of them, we need Dragon Quest 4 through 10. That's the whole series. We need all of the series to be available and playable on modern platforms. I would gladly trade this HD-2D trilogy with, basic ports of Dragon Quest 4 through 6. Take that DS version, that mobile version, and just port it right onto the Nintendo Switch, right onto Steam and everything else. Simple, basic port, basic upscaling, clean up the menus, keep it simple. Don't pour a ton of resources into it. You can always remake it later, but right now it just needs to be about availability. We need the availability of 4 through 6. 7 and 8, those have 3DS versions. They also have mobile versions. 7 was mobile only in Japan, but it still had a mobile version. Seems like a pretty easy job to port those projects as well. Again, you don't have to do a ton of crazy upscaling or anything like that. Just simple ports. That's all we need. So where are those? Dragon Quest 9 is a little more tricky because it only has a DS version. That's the only version of the game that exists. But then we get into Dragon Quest 10. Just came out in China and Korea. It's being translated into other languages. Could we at least have that one? I'm just saying, guys, to Yuji Horii, to the Dragon Quest team, to Square Enix, I'm happy about Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D. I really am. But we already had 3 on modern platforms. You can already play it on the Nintendo Switch. It's not a great version, but it's a version. We have it. And we also can play 1 and 2. You see what I'm getting at? Like, we need to be able to experience the series. Like, this is one of your biggest, most historic properties, Square Enix. And I don't know. I feel like we're getting minimal effort of preservation with this series because, again, I like what they're doing here, but they need to do a lot more just in terms of making the series available as a whole, not just randomly. It's like they have a dartboard of like, just, oh, new Builders game. Oh, okay, new Monsters game. Okay, a remake of what? Oh, okay, 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, it's just like let's get some. I'm trying not to get frustrated as I talk about this. I got a little bit heated the last time I talked about this on the channel, but it is what it is. I mean, they need to do a better job of preserving this series for future generations. And no, we don't need remakes all the time. I mean, you know, I'm going to play it. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure 1 and 2 remake is going to be great. I do think it's cool that, you know, they get to remake 3, make their $60 price tag, make their money with that. 1 and 2 makes total sense to combine those two. They've done that before on like the Game Boy Color, I think. So makes all the sense in the world. Next up, we have something else to talk about, and that is, let's see if it will play for us. Yeah, there we go. It's Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Okay, where do I start here, guys? I'm going to try not to make this just a total gush fest, but it's going to be difficult. So, we got a 2D Zelda game, an all-new, brand-new 2D Zelda game from the ground up. It's not like Link Between Worlds, which was kind of like maybe 30% a remake of Link to the Past. I don't really think that way, but a lot of people do. And it's not like the DS versions, which were just not very good. I mean, I'm hopeful this one will be good. I don't think it'll be like those. And it feels like the last really good, all-new 2D Zelda game we got was the Minish Cap, like 20 years ago or something. Probably more than 20 years ago now. This game is a new 2D Zelda game. People said it would never happen again. But here it is. They're giving it to us. I was a lot more convinced that we would get sort of Link's Awakening versions of Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. That's what the rumor was. But it turns out, folks, we're getting an all-new game. And Zelda's the protag. Another thing we thought would never happen. Zelda is the protagonist in this game. And she's a sorcerer, and she's doing all these magic tricks and stuff. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go down the list. New 2D Zelda, check. Zelda as the protag, check. We got Tears of the Kingdom isms in this game with the creativity angle and the building and the block placing and the spells and things that you're going to be casting, the interactivity, the open-endedness of the gameplay. We got that going on. Check. We got Pokemon isms in this game with the monster collecting and wrangling and having them fight alongside you. I know it's probably a really simple mechanic, but we have it. Pokemon isms, check. We got Minecraft isms, check, with the block placing. Again, a very simplified version of Minecraft, but you know, we can place a water column and float to the top of it. Check. We got Animal Crossing isms, because you know Zelda is going to have a totally tricked out pad, maybe a whole property, maybe a whole, big mansion lot that she can trick out with different furniture and items that she can place wherever she wants. So we got Animal Crossing isms, check. I mean, what does this game not have? This is a game that I'm very excited about, as you can see. I just think that this is the coolest thing ever in so many ways. I mean, yes, you can build a water column. You can place blocks in front of blowy, steamy things. Instead of waiting for them to just stop, you just throw a block there. You're good. You build a staircase out of beds and tables. Yes, please. we don't know how good this is going to be. I think the ideas look great. I want to temper my expectations because right now they're really through the roof. And we don't know how good it's going to be. I think from the look of it and from what I'm just sort of guessing, I'm kind of guessing this game is going to be on the shorter side of things, which is not a bad thing. But, you know, it looks like it might be like an 8-hour type of game. But we'll see. Link's Awakening for me was longer because it just, I don't know, just ended up being that way. Not a long game either. But I don't think they need to make a long game here. I think that, you know, if we can get in and out of this experience and have a great time and build memories and all of that good stuff, then, hey, huge win. I am super stoked about this game. Maybe the most stoked I've ever been about a 2D Zelda game. Probably the only one that beats it is Link to the Past. Because yes, I remember back in the day on the NES, I had the original Legend of Zelda and I loved it. And then when the Super Nintendo came around and we heard about Link to the Past, I thought that was the coolest thing ever because it's like a 16-bit version of Zelda and it's like, I don't know if anything is going to top that, but this is close. This is close. By the way, gold Switch Lite, nice touch. When are we going to get that Switch Pocket, Nintendo? Didn't we get some schematics leaked for a Pocket device in the Switch family? I'm hopeful we'll get that sooner or later. But they're really milking the OLED, and now it looks like they're going to milk the Switch Lite some more. It'll be interesting to see if they put an OLED screen in that gold model. I don't think they will, but they could. It'd be interesting if they did. But that concludes my little topic video for today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, checking in on me. I'm doing good. I haven't made videos in a while, like I said, but I've just been really hunkering down in 2024 and playing a lot of games, and it's been great. And I've got a lot of catching up to do on the video side of things. So stick with me. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and check me out on X or Twitter. I'll leave a link in the description below, trying to kind of build the Twitter following. It's a very slow moving process, unlike YouTube, which seems to go a lot faster in terms of viewership and stuff. But I appreciate you guys very much for checking me out, and I'll end it on that.